Yesterday, we already created some Aura components as an example. So we just created one like without any interface. Then we noticed that we can implement manually also. So this is one of them, which is not provided by Salesforce while we are creating the Aura component. So we can just type it inside the Aura component. We can use like this. Or when we choose all the configurations from the beginning. So when I say from the beginning, we can select them from here. There are like 5 of them as an optional. So we can just select them. According to what we are selecting, we are gonna get some kind of interfaces right here. So what did Sanjay do? He mentioned that for the components, because when we create one of the Aura component, it is gonna create the first file for the bundle also, which is component. When we create this component, he said that we are just typing the HTML codes inside this, right? If you remember, we are creating some buttons over the JavaScript also for the as a VS Code. Let me find my VS Code also. Okay, for example, what we are doing here, we created a button like this, right? I just put a comment also, so I'm just gonna take this part. And I'm just gonna paste it over here. So this is the code we used in VS Code inside our HTML file. And since we are inside the Aura component, which is the component file, I just want you guys to check the difference between this one and this one. So line 4, we just received this one from one of the document file. Yesterday, Sanjay shared that one, right? So what was it? Lightning component library. And when you come here, you can find Lightning Web Components. This is for the LWC, and this is for the Aura component. He said he's using the Lightning as a component here. So there are lots of components. And this is the one he picked. When you select anything from the library, you are gonna see some kind of like the code for the component, which is for the like component file. This is for the controller file. So basically, it is giving you option for the HTML code. You can copy paste from here, and you can use the JavaScript code from here. So if you check this one, the last one, lightning colon button. Let me just find my developer console. That way you can see. And since I used it for the all controllers, yes, so which means the component file is here. And this is the one I used. So lightning colon button variant success, label is success, title is success, and on click this one. And when I get my button from the HTML file, so After the on click, we just type inside the double quote. This is the actual thing which is doing the calculation here. And this is what we are writing inside the Aura component. So there are a couple differences, like this curly brackets. And we talked about this one, it makes dynamic yesterday. And this is the functionality. So basically, you are just copying and pasting from one of the stuff from the library. This library is already provided from Salesforce, so you are just using it. But whenever you use the component file code from here, you need to take the controller also. And inside the controller, what we are using the JS file, like JavaScript code. So if I come back to my controller, I just copy and paste. And remember one thing, for example, if for this component, if I try to create a controller, this is not responding me. Okay. So as soon as it creates the controller as a JavaScript, it's gonna give me this action. So if you are copying and pasting something from the library, you just need to delete it accordingly. For example, it's starting with the parenthesis, then curly parenthesis here. So I need to get rid of this one, and I need to paste it like this. So what I'm trying to say is just be careful while you are copying and pasting some stuff from the library. Otherwise, you are going to get some error.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you go to the component tab on the library, like when we click on it,
component, okay.
On the library, on the browser. Yes,
Okay.
that one. So we have multiple different things. What's the difference between them? Why did we pick the one that is at the bottom?
I just checked, I just copied this one, and you can try, because they are gonna all work with this JS file.
That controller, right? Okay. But these, I assume all of these doing different things, or not?
They are doing different things because, for example, there is base variant, this one. If you would like to use this one, you can use this code. And if you would like to use the natural variant as a default, this one, it depends how you would like to design your UI site. Accordingly, you can select. For example, how many options we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different codes here. So if you select all of them, then you can create all of these. And these are the basic buttons. There are a bunch of them. If you would like to create something, disabled buttons with the icons like download, edit, something like this. So it is all about the requirement.
Okay.
If you would like to pick something like this, then you just select the correct code for that.
Okay.
Since this is just a demonstration, I just
Okay.
pick one of them and I just select the success one here.
Mhm.
And I need to select the related controller, which I did, and put it over here. Since yesterday, if you guys remember, I created one record page as a component. If I go there, Lightning App Builder. This one was it? I say edit. If you remember, it was empty yesterday. This one. I just put like, this is my component over there. After applying only that codes, which I received from the library only, I have this success button here. So if I get all these are, I believe I need to arrange them one by one over the controller. I'm just using this component. I'm just going to delete this one and also this one because it's going to be already inside this. So the code is ready for you. I'm just saving it. And my controller, I have only this one. If I just go back to my record, and if you guys remember, I just take this one and paste it here. This is the component, Aura component I have. I'm just gonna refresh it. Can you see that?
Yes.
All the buttons are here because I picked all the codes from there. So from the beginning, like when we explain it like verbally, we need to talk a lot to like explain it, and that's why it is becoming like something complicated. But while you are applying it, if you know where to go and how to get it, this is the important part. You need to know how to copy and paste. Like from the beginning, Sanjay was also saying a good developer needs to know where to copy, how to paste. So everything is over here. We have lots of option here, but we need to know like what we are receiving and what we need to do. And some of them, you are gonna see the helper class also, helper file. So if you are trying to create something like this, and if you are copying this one with the helper, it is gonna work. If you would like to put something avatar, but there are lots of options. Believe me, it is hard to know like where to go and what to copy.
I have a question.
Yes.
So we find the component and put it in CMP page, and then the controller copy to JavaScript page. What
Okay.
about the others, like helper style? What are we gonna copy them?
Like some of them you are not gonna need it helper, but if I go to the, where's my right here. So sometimes I'm not gonna need it helper, but if I would like to do some decoration, I need to do the style. And this style is gonna be your CSS. So what did you learn? You learn HTML for the component. You learn JavaScript for the controller. You learn CSS for the style. Think about that way. But sometimes you are gonna need some helper file. And most of the time, if you are copying from the library, it is gonna provide you the helper if it is required. But
I can find, I will be finding it here if I need to.
yeah, think about that way. And if like why they already created this stuff, because think about like this. You are working over the Salesforce and they already like work on that and provide the code, and they know it is gonna be applicable for the Salesforce. That's why like they are suggesting to use this library.
I just saw the prompt. It has helper, I guess.
Prompt?
Prompt.
Yes.
Yeah, I just found it. So I'm gonna copy this one if I want open prompt
Yes.
button here.
Yes. But like according to the requirement, like you might need to change some stuff. Then Sanjay is gonna show that kind of stuff. But most of the time it is gonna work like when you copy from here.
Okay.
The most important thing is like how we are gonna understand that from the requirement. They are mentioning to go this library and pick this one, for example, or this one. So that is the hardest part.
So we are gonna Google it first.
Yeah,
And then come here and
we can do it. And believe me, like while working, everyone is like Googling. Otherwise, it is impossible to know all these components. Like if you ask Sanjay, he knows all this like in his mind for the alert, for the page, for the avatar. They already created this thing, and it is up to you, like the size, the variant, and if you go details, you are gonna see like bunch of different options. And they provided all the documentation and specifications. What you need to do, you just need to pick. They just try to make easy for the developers also, because these are already provided by Salesforce itself.
So is that what we need? We are actually just copying and pasting the HTML and JS files, like controller and component, and also like if we need to like style it, do we write our own CSS in the style
Yes.
class, and then
Yes.
just kind of change the other like the basic look of the HTML and JS? Is that how is it?
That's what we are gonna do in the beginning, and then if we need to change some stuff over the like developer console, then we are gonna do that. And like since I show you the difference between this on click and this one here, which we did. So what is the difference here? This one. And how it is starting? It is not starting with the button. It is starting with the lightning button. So is it still HTML here? Yes, it is still HTML, but you need to provide some parameters we talked yesterday. Some of them are required, right? So it is about the syntax, and what you are getting from that library, you are just getting the syntax.
There is
And
one
it-
with CSS as well, if we want to copy CSS on the library, if you want to see Spinner, for example.
Let me check.
Yeah, Spinner. Yes, this lightning spinner. It gives us
HTML, CSS is here, yes.
oh,
But for example, when you apply this one, this is not like what you are looking for, then you can just change the values here.
mhm.
But the basic structure is this. And what is it doing? Like while you are waiting, something is running, right? So you just want the user to see something like this or this. This can change according to me or according to Tunç or Ebrunil. Everyone can pick something different. And like they can just change it over here, whatever they would like to do. So there is no one correct answer for this. But the thing is, while we are applying, we need to apply for the all required files. It needs HTML 100%, which is component. And since it is just showing some activity here, it requires JS file. And then as a beauty, like you can color it, or you can just adjust the width and height, then it can grow up or getting smaller.
Can you
So-
click on the UI spinner on the left? What is the difference?
Which one?
This UI spinner.
Okay, you are providing this one because it is not acting like the other one. You are
Ah.
just gonna need it like the JavaScript file and the HTML file. That's enough. And it is changing because like from the beginning, if I just delete this spinner here, these are all the components for the Aura components. Since what we are saying from the beginning when we start the Aura components, they are all Lightning components. Lightning components includes the Lightning Web component and the Aura components. So while you are working for the LWC, you are just gonna use these are. It looks like there are like two components, but when you click, there are a bunch of them inside. But for the Aura component, you have more option. What did we see? We found one spinner underneath the UI. Let me find it. Right here at the end. And there was another spinner inside the Lightning. This is the UI one. And this one has like visual stuff, I can say, more effective. This is the Lightning one. So it depends just like what you are looking for, what you are picking from here. But just make sure while you are writing an Aura component, just pick something underneath this one, not from here. It might work or it might not work. Any question? I just wanted to show like how it is gonna affect and how it is gonna reflect to your page as a visual. If I just save this thing, and if I go my accounts, it might take some time maybe, but it is gonna come up underneath this one.
How about the home screen? Can we see it from home screen too? Did you apply it to all pages? I don't see that.
You mean here?
Yes.
By the way, I have two developer console open. Just a second. I need to get rid of this. Save it. In this one, I selected all the interfaces.
Okay.
So it is gonna affect, but what I am trying to do is I'm just trying to apply this one to the record page only, account record page. So I'm not selecting that. No, just let me select as a alt default, app default, assign the app. I'm just selecting for the sales. Next, desktop and phone all together and save it.
After activation, should you click save again or?
No need to normally,
Okay.
but it is already saved according to here. Right here, I can see this is my computer. And if you notice that these are all clickable. You click neutral. You click brand outline. What did we do yesterday? We did the same thing on the VS Code. So I don't know what did you guys use it, but we did like some click and change it. So how did we do this? Clickable. Anyone who remembers?
There was an on-click button.
Okay, we were just implementing this. So we put some H1, then we put an image, first image as a dessert. We just implement the height and width, and then we put our JavaScript code inside the script tag. And what did we say? We just use this functionality, change image functionality. We just created a like var image, like later on we can just use X, something like that for the another one. And we said that just get document.get element by ID, which is starting with the my image. If it is dessert, make it koala. Else, if it is not dessert, then just make it dessert. That is the functionality for this. How did we provide this functionality with the JavaScript? So for here, how did we create this functionality, which is clickable? Let me go to the UI side. How did we get this functionality? With the controller file. Does it make more sense? And what we have inside our controller, this one, we are just saying give an alert. Say you clicked this thing. And it is gonna change according to whatever you clicked, and it is gonna be written like this. You click destructive text. It is going to the event.getSource and get the v label, v.label. It is getting it from here. So where is the destructive text? For example, this one. So it is coming here and it is taking v.label. Label is this one, and it is just pasting over here. And this is all your domain. Since Sanjay went a little bit fast yesterday, I just wanted to like go deeply about this, but you can ask the question when he starts about this Aura component stuff. I just wanted to make a little bit more sense. Hopefully it makes same sense.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm just gonna share my other screen. Okay, yesterday we talked about all that interfaces and we said that some of them you need to memorize, especially that 5 of them, but is it restricted with that 5 interfaces? No, like there are a bunch of them. You can just know some of them. There is like only 2 more, I believe, here in the slides. Other than that, you just need to know that 5 of them. For example, this one is not part of that 5 configuration. We talk about the handler. We talk about some parameters are required. And we talk about this like dynamic ones. And lastly, we talk about like what kind of events we have. So, excuse me. Like when Sanjay talked about this on click, each and every of them is one event, right? For example, this on click is one event. And there are some different type of events inside the Salesforce. One of them is application event. And I have all these hyperlinks here. And I'm just gonna pull up here. This is also Salesforce page. Application events are here. Component events are here. And there is also system events. So we have 3 different events. This is also the Salesforce document. I just change. I can edit it later on. But most of the time, if you get any question about the events inside the Aura component, they are gonna ask you to compare the application events with the component events. So they can ask you what is the basic difference between application event and the component event. Here, the blue one, component event, it has some kind of relationship inside. There are some like parent to child relationship here. But for the application event, there is no relationship required. It is working through all the application without any relationship. If we would like to go more details, we said like we have component events and we have application events. There are some phases inside these events. They call it propagation phases. For the component events, it is just capture and bubble phase. For the application, there is one more, which is default. Capture, bubble, default. If you guys ask me, like, what is the capture, what is the bubble, what is the default, then we need to come back to here. For the component events, propagation, we have, I'm not counting this event file. So capture phase, the framework executes the capture phase from the application root to the source component until all the components are traversed. Any handling event can stop propagation by calling stop propagation on the event. And for the bubble phase, the framework, it executes the bubble phase from the source component to the application root until all the components are traversed, or stop propagation is called. So, like, for me, it is really difficult to get the difference here. And it is really difficult to explain, like, the phases. That's why I just put over here the phase names, because it's gonna be too much deep knowledge if I just insert here the definitions. But when you get any question like this, you should remember one more thing. You can stop this propagation anytime when you write down that stop propagation method. You can think about like test start, test stop, right? We were using these. There is one more method which can stop the propagation. It can stop any phases. And if you get any question like this, believe me, it is gonna be enough if you just count these 3 phases or 2 phases. Capture phase, bubble phase. If it is application, then there is one more phase, which is default phase. And it is also written over here. When you come, application events, propagation, right here. So basically, it is written same thing. The only difference is prevent default for the default phase. Other than that, they are all same. Event.stop propagation. So it is too much detailed knowledge, so I just skipped that part. You just need to know 3 phase for the application events, 2 phase for the component events. Now, same question. What is the difference between application events and component events? Like for the component events, parent to child communication is important. if there is a parent to child relationship anywhere, which means there is a hierarchy over there. And if this relationship is provided with the component events, then you should know that when you update any child component, it will be signaled to the parent, which means like parent will be aware of that. So if you are doing anything, any update to the child component, this will have the knowledge. But for the application events, it is like an open communication. It doesn't require any hierarchical or direct like connections between the components. So two things you can say as a difference. Application events, they don't have any parent to child relationship. That's why there is no hierarchical relation. For the component events, there is parent to child relationship. That's why it has some hierarchical connection between the components. Does it make sense? Or am I going fast? Or am I here or you are here?
I'm here. I'm good.
Or am I audible?
Am I audible?
Am I audible now? I mean, I'm lost a little bit here because I don't know what are we talking
Okay.
about now. I mean, is
Like-
it like Aura? Still, are we on Aura or LWC?
we
or
are still in Aura,
Okay.
and I started from here. The only thing I am explaining from this to here, it is just about the like difference between the application event and component event. Why? Because there are different kind of events inside the Aura component. And what is event? You can give an example that on click, like which we applied here. That's why I just started with that one.
It's not function, right? It's different than function, I guess. Event.
Function, it is like
It's different, I guess, because we
the
mentioned function.
function we are using inside the JavaScript.
Mhm.
We are
Yes.
using the function to calculate something or give another function to our code. In that way, it can like move or it can be clickable. That is the function. Event is like anything like this one. We are using
Operation.
events.
Kind of. Any kind of operation. Or-
We can, but I don't want to say something wrong here. Then Sanjay is going to explain something different. But kind of, I can say, event is inside the component. You can think about like that.
Mhm.
But the function is inside the like JS file or the controller.
Mhm. Okay. So we have three different events, right?
We have three different events. Most of the time, we are gonna talk about the application event and component event. I provided the link here. Let me send it over the Slack also. New channel. So what I share, it is this one. component events, application events. If we go to the details, there are like two phases for the component events, which is like capture and bubble phase. For the application event, it is having three phases. Capture, bubble, same with the component events. The only difference is default phase. Now, like, what is the difference between component events and application events? We talked about this. Component events, they have parent to child relationship in between the components. That's why they have some hierarchical relation or connection in between these components. But for the application events, it doesn't require any parent to child relationship. There is no hierarchical or direct connection between the components. Going through all the application. That's what we talked until now.
Okay. This component event must have a parent-child relationship, right?
Component events, yes.
Okay.
Any other question?
Not for now.
Okay. So we talk about this one. Now, if we know the difference, like when should we use the application events, or like which one should we prefer to use? This is kind of tricky question. So since there is a relationship between the component events, it's a good practice to use the component events over the application events. Why? Because we said that for the application events, they are used for the signaling a message to the broader audience, or like, since there is no hierarchical relationship here, it can send the signal to like everywhere. It is not going to go through the parent component. That's why we can use the component events over the application events. Because our component events, they have some hierarchy in between. And when you update any child component, it is going to signal to the parent component only. That is why it is better to use component events over the application events. Quite again.
We are here, maybe,
Okay.
but too
Good to know that.
no, too much terms, too much new words
Too much terms.
for me.
If you notice that, I am just keep repeating myself.
Yes, but some of them are new.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
like when you get familiar, it's gonna make more sense. Otherwise, right now it is still in the air.
Okay.
Okay. There is one more thing. This is like, I don't even know how to explain it. I'm gonna try my best. I want you guys to read it first, then we are gonna talk about it. let me do the summary. We are just going to talk about the data binding. And while we are talking about data binding, we are going to talk about the like unbound expression and bound expression. And there are some sign differences. I just want you guys to see that. So just try to read it here, then I can read and we can go one by one over the sentences. Do you guys need more time? I don't want to give like 15, 20 minutes like Sanjay. Okay. Let me read it loud. When you add a component in markup, you can use an expression to initialize the attribute values in the component based on attribute values of the container components. So there is one component and there is one container component.
Is that the parent one, the container component,
Yes.
or no?
Yes, think about like this. I'm just gonna draw it, the other one like this. Think about this one is going through inside this. So there are two components. One of them is like the parent component. We call it C parent component. And this one has some parent attribute inside. This is the C parent. So basically we are trying to bring these two components together with a relationship. And this C parent has some P attribute inside, say P attribute. And there is another one, which is component child. And this one has child attribute inside. So it has child attribute. And what we are trying to do is parent contains a child component with the child attribute that is initialized the value of the parent attribute. So we are passing the parent attribute value which is this one, from the C parent into the child component. This one goes into the child component. We call this one data binding. Or value binding.
Do we have any example on the slides about this?
On the next slides, there's no example, but on the next slides, then we are gonna explain the binding types.
May I ask you something,
Yes.
Mevlüt Bey?
Sure.
For example, in your when you open Lightning app, when you open, for example, a country record page, is there any parent component and child component on that page that we can see? Is there any way to understand
No,
the
because
relationship?
this relationship will be provided on the backend, so
Okay.
over the code. And since whatever we have here, these
Mhm.
are all standard.
Yeah.
These are all standard. Only these three which we created. So I don't have an example for it.
Okay.
But think about this is the big
We
one.
can see something on Google. I mean, maybe not now. Maybe we can just search it.
Yeah,
Yes, we can. Okay.
believe me, it's not gonna make sense right now. Data binding. Aura component. Okay. This is for the parent component. And this is the child attribute. They are explaining the same, they are using the same value to
Explanation.
explain it. And then when we need to divide the data binding, then we need to divide it to unbound expression and bound expression. These are the next two slides we are going to talk. But over the code, I don't know if it makes sense to you guys, but it doesn't to me.
Doesn't to me either.
Yeah. And I got this question over the interview.
Oh my God,
And
really?
I just explained this one. And for the difference between the bound expression and unbound expression, I said this is dynamic, this is this is dynamic, this is static. I just said like that. It was at least something, I said. I explained this one. I said there are two components. One of them is parent component. The other one is child component. Parent component has parent attribute inside, and child component has the child attribute inside. What we are trying to do is we are trying to pass the parent attribute value inside the child component. And we call this one as a data binding. When I express this, they ask me what is the bounding expressions? First, I couldn't realize what they are talking about. And then I said, oh, you are talking about making it as a static or dynamic. And then they ask me like, which one you prefer? I said, I always prefer the dynamic because I know dynamic is good, but this is not exactly same thing here, but still it worked. So they said like for the dynamic, which one you are gonna prefer? Like what sign you are using? They just asked me this. And I said, but if they ask me like, can you give me an example as a code or something like that? No, there is no way. And this question just came to me as a like verbal question. That's why like I'm just trying to make it basic while I'm expressing it. But still it is all in the air, so I can totally understand if it is not making any sense right now. But this is one of the like important topic about the Aura components. Because is this something we have to do it as a Salesforce developer? No. It depends on the requirement. It depends on the use cases. But if we did an example, or if somebody is asking us, we should give them at least the general knowledge. That's
So-
what like I am just trying to cover it here.
So is it something that we're gonna write it in component or in like controller, helper style? Where are we gonna use this? I mean, I can explain this way, okay, I can memorize it, but I don't know where it comes from or where to write.
Okay, for this one, I can say this is for the component, right?
Yeah,
And this is the child attribute. These are component. This is over the component.
so they're all in component.
Yes.
Same
But like
component.
for these kind of questions, if you didn't apply it, if you are not sure some of the like part you are explaining, so no need to talk about like I just need to do it over the component or something like that, because there are already lots of like words, they are looking like each other. For example, you are just talking about the Aura components, but sometimes people are gonna like interrupt you and they are gonna talk about Lightning component. It is easy, you can mix up with the Lightning Web component because they are all component, they are all Lightning, but the difference is Web and Aura. Like that's why like don't try to give them too much details, because if somebody is asking you these questions, believe me, they know more than you. Because this is something so specific. And if you try to trick them or if you try to give them more details, then they are gonna show up with the more questions about this. Keep it simple, keep it general. Just make them feel you have some knowledge about this. Do you know data binding in Aura component? Yes, I know. Like, I know the general knowledge, but I didn't apply to any of my code before. So as far as I remember, there are like two components, and one of them is parent component, one of them is child component. Parent component has some parent attribute inside, and we are trying to pass this parent attribute value inside the child component. And we call them like data binding. That's it. We are trying to apply this one over the controller, or I don't remember, was it helper or no need to do that? Any more question?
I have a question, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure about my question. Can we say that it is creating by itself between child component and parent component the relationship with by the data binding? Can we say that, or I
If I-
understood
If I
incorrect?
say I didn't understand the question,
Can you come back the previous slide?
yeah, sure.
I understood that way. Can we say that actually we are creating a child-parent relationship between two components by data binding? Is it correct, or?
That is correct. Whenever you create these you are giving an attribute name, parent attribute, inside the like parent component. And you are creating a child attribute inside the child component. And these are the one I'm just gonna show over the slides now.
I think because we are passing the parent attribute to child attribute, Ebru asked if we are granting the child attribute, kind of, I guess. Is that what you were asking, Ebru?
I was thinking, is this a way to create relationship between two components?
When you are bounding them, you are just creating a relationship.
Maybe it is
kind
not
of.
our actual, it is not our actual purpose to create relationship. But I think it is, we can say that it is automatically create.
I think it is better to ask this question to Sanjay.
Okay, we can
Yeah,
ask.
because I don't want to say something
Wrong, okay.
Yeah, it's wrong, and he's gonna correct it later. So we talk about like two different type of expressions. One of them is unbound. One of them is bound expressions. I want you guys to read this one, and the other one I'm gonna let you to read. Then there is one more thing here, which is different. I believe you guys see this on Java, but I can check with Chilam. There are some data updates, like you can expect inside the JavaScript. And as all you know, there are some primitive data types and other than primitive data types. Like primitive data types, such as like string, they are working with the passed by value. And they updates the expression in the parent and child are decoupled. And also there are some objects like arrays or maps. They are working with the passed by reference. So changes to the data in the child propagate to the parent. However, change handlers in the parent are not notified. The same behavior applies for change in the parent propagating to the child. If you remember when we talked about the component events and the application events, one of them was component events and component events. When you have any update on the child component, it is gonna signal to the parent component. In here, parent is not getting notified. You can just think about like this part is about the application event. The only thing here you should know, or you should remember, but even if you don't remember, we can like express this knowledge later on. Passed by value and passed by reference is different things. It depends on the like data type. If it is a primitive data type, it is gonna pass by value. Whenever you have any update, it will be expressing to the parent and child. And if it is non-primitive, it is gonna work with passed by reference. And if it is passed by reference, like if there is a change on the child component, it's not gonna reflect to the parent component. Or like parent component will not be notifying that child component has some updates. And this is the like creating a child attribute inside the child component with the unbounding expression. So there is no bound in between child to parent on this one. And everything is blank. So basically, I'm just going to show you the difference. Pass by value, the method parameter values are copied to another variable, and then the copied object is passed to the method. So the method uses the copy. If it is passed by value, which one is passed by value? Primitive ones. So the method uses the copy. Passed by reference, an alias or reference to the actual parameter is passed to the method. The method accesses the actual parameter. This one. But it should be like a diagram, like something like this. And yeah, this one. If you are passing by reference, check the like cup of coffee, right? And you are filling up the coffee. You are using pass by reference. So whatever you have inside this one as a value, it is coming to here. But if you are passing the value, you are copying this and you are filling it inside. I'm going to use the same example and we are going to talk about this one later on, more details. Okay? Because if I try to squeeze it like within 5 minutes, it's not going to make sense. But the thing is here, you need to know some of the values, which is primitives, primitive data types, they are going to be passed by value. Non-primitive data types, they are going to pass by reference. If it is passed by reference, whatever you have inside the cup, it is coming with the cup. Passed by value, which is primitive data types, they are just copying and filling inside. So this one was unbound expression, and this is the bound expression. Data updates in either component are reflected through bidirectional data binding in both components. Similarly, change handlers are triggered in both parent-to-child components. So they have a bound in between parent to child. And you are creating this bound expression with this one. If we compare with the other one, the difference is only this. Now they are bounded with the first one. This is unbounded. That is the difference. When it is bounded, like whenever you have any change, one of the component, it is going to affect the other one. If it is child, it's going to reflect it to the parent. If it is bounded. If it is unbounded, then you need to know that if it is passed by value or passed by reference. If it is passed by reference, then they are not gonna affect each other. Any questions, guys? I don't know if I could be able to explain it, but this thing is something different. I'm just gonna prepare a couple more slides to explain this. This is not related to the Aura component. This is used in Java also, but we need to talk about this.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
See
you.
guys. Bye.
Recording stopped.